Okay, we've gone live, and welcome to everybody here at this Regional Transport Committee meeting, and in particular those who will be watching it later as it's being recorded. So I am obligated to read the Chairman's statement from the throne, which I will do, and in it I remind councillors that the public section of this meeting is being recorded and will be made available on the Bay of Plenty Regional Council website following this meeting and archived for a period of up to 3 years. And to those members of the public here today, all care will be taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in the public gallery, it is understood your consent is given if your image is inadvertently broadcast. I also remind all present that local government decision-making efforts afford no protection to councillors, council officers and the public for comments made during the meetings that are subsequently challenged in a court of law and determined to be slanderous. So having made that statement, we will move on. The meeting has been opened and I will call for apologies. And I am holding apologies from Inspector Brent Crowe, His Worship the Mayor Malcolm Campbell, Her Worship the Mayor of Rotorua, Lakes Council, Steve Chadwick, and Dan Kneebone, who as we know is a voting member of this committee from Whakaputahi. Oh, Dan, sorry. You slipped in under cover of darkness. Okay. Chairman Leader and Mayor Turner. I am happy to move. Seconded His Worship Mayor Webber. All those in favour, please say aye. Against carried. Aye. There's no public forum. There's no late items being tabled. In terms of the order of business, I'm going to make a captain's call and afford all politicians in the room an opportunity to speak to any item, but in the event of us needing to take a vote, those voting will be myself, Councillor Neves, Deputy Mayor Tunui, Mayor Lynn Riestra. You have voting rights even though you're on Zoom.
Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Dave Donaldson, Deputy Mayor Tina Salisbury, His Worship the Mayor Gary Webber, and Deputy Mayor Andrew Isles from Whakatane. And Cole, you'll be absolutely delighted to know that you're now a voting delegate here today on behalf of Steve Mutton. So moving on, declarations of conflicts of interest. Does anyone, I think we're all members of the AA, so we don't need to declare a conflict of interest there, but are there any other conflicts of interest that anyone would like to declare? There being none, moving on, the previous minutes have been circulated and they are there in hard copy on page 6 with someone with a reasonably good memory going back to the 7th of August. Move those as a reasonably true and accurate record of that meeting. Deputy Mayor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Neves. They're open for discussion. Any matters arising? Councillor Donaldson.
Mr. Chair, I can't move them because I wasn't here. It does show me as present, but I wasn't. Apologies. Just that correction.
His Worship Mayor Webber is happy to move on your behalf. Okay, they're open for discussion. Any matters arising from those minutes? There being none, I'll put them. All those in favour, please say aye. Against
aye.
Carried. Aye. Thank you. You're coming through loud and clear, Your Worship, in Obuki, so that's good.
Good.
If I can take you over to the Chairman's report, it is there, and as His Worship Mayor Webber would say, move quick and take it as read, which I will do. So I will move it as that it be taken as read. It has been circulated. Any matters for discussion? You happy to second, Councillor Neves? Okay, I will just add that of particular interest is the Takitimu Northern Link delay, which I would have included in that report before it went to print, but we've asked Cole, given him a heads up, and asked him to speak to that item, which is of considerable community interest as part of his NZTA Whakaputahi presentation. So I'll put all those in favour, please say aye. Against carried.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, page 19, Whakaputahi. Cole, you're on stage, and if you can pick up that request to, at some stage, your presentation, talk about the Takitimu Northern Link delay, it would be appreciated. Thanks so much, and welcome. No, you can stay there, stay there. And as I said, the floor is open to any politicians to just indicate if you want to ask a question.
Excellent. Afternoon all. Cole O'Keefe, lead strategic planner based in Wakakotahi, stepping in for Steve Martin, who is unfortunately apologies today. And in terms of the Takatumu North Link, near the end of my presentation today, there will be a slide suggesting an opportunity, preferably if elected members agreeable to set up a separate session to cover a number of projects within the region, if members are acceptable with that. So I'll cover that near the end of my presentation. We can all agree 2020 has been a challenging year. COVID-19 has had a significant impact, and this is expected to last for several years. At Wakakotahi, we've seen a significant drop in our revenue in the 3 months to the end of June, and expect a similar drop in revenue during this financial year. What we know is COVID-19 will have an ongoing impact on travel patterns and our revenue through the National Land Transport Fund for several years. We're currently in moderation assessment and prioritisation phase for continuous programs for the 2021-24 National Land Transport Program. We've received initial submissions for improvement activities and we'll start moderation in February 2021. We'll continue to work closely with you to build up a pipeline of work so that you're in the best position to have your projects funded in the future. Thanks. The GPS 2021 builds on the strategic direction set in the GPS 2018 and focuses on 4 strategic priorities: safety, better travel options, proven freight connections, and climate change. The Wakakotahi investment proposal sets out our proposed investment activities for inclusion in the 2021-24 National Land Transport Program. This proposal is focused on completing projects already underway, improving safety outcomes, getting the most from our existing transport system, investing in projects that deliver priority outcomes and complement current projects where this is affordable, and improving services across the network through low cost and low risk capital investments. There will also be a focus on investing in more reliable, sustainable public transport services and using new technology to move more people more efficiently using a variety of travel options. Over the next 3 years, we will continue to invest in the Stairway 2 Waihi to Mokoroa corridor, which complements the New Zealand Upgrade Program investment in Takatimu North Link. Across the wider network, we will continue to operate and maintain the state highway network to agreed levels of service for key freight and tourism connections in the region. We'll continue to work closely with our smart growth partners on land use and transport matters. This includes the next stages of UFTI, such as the Western Bay of Plenty Transport System Plan, finalising the Western Bay of Plenty Sub-Region Spatial Plan, implementation of the Tupapa Plan, as well as implementation of the Bay of Plenty Motorship Plan. Proposing to invest $3.8 million in improving the resilience of Stairway 29 over the Kaimai Range. In terms of the Road to Zero program, we're ensuring the Bay of Plenty's roads are safe. We're ensuring within Bay of Plenty's roads that safety is a priority. Improving safety on our roads has been further strengthened by the launch of the Road to Zero New Zealand's Road Safety Strategy 2020 to 2030. The Road to Zero vision is that in New Zealand, no one is killed or seriously injured in road crashes. Our contribution to Road to Zero includes an infrastructure and speed management program focused on delivering infrastructure improvements and speed management on New Zealand's roads, targeting investment on those roads and roadsides which offer the greatest potential for reducing deaths and serious injuries. We'll be working alongside our road safety partners to engage and deliver on Road to Zero infrastructure and speed management program to ensure an integrated approach across the state highways and local roads in the Bay of Plenty region. Within the Bay of Plenty region, over the next 3 years, we're looking to invest 49 million to make 251 kilometres of state highways safer through infrastructure improvements and speed management to reduce deaths and serious injuries by 10%. Consultation on the draft investment prioritisation method for the 2021-24 National Land Transport Program closed on the 2nd of November. During the next few weeks, we're reviewing the feedback received and making any necessary adjustments to the draft investment prioritisation method. We expect to have a final investment prioritisation method released by mid-December 2020. This will replace the investment assessment framework for the current NLT period. It has been developed in response to the GPS 2021 and will be used to prioritise activities in 2021-24. Information about the investment prioritisation method can be found on our website, and if you have any questions, please email decisionmaking@nzta.gov.nz. The employment modelling used to inform Arataki version 2 is now available. This information was developed because we wanted to better understand the potential implications of COVID-19 downturn on the land transport system, particularly the potential impacts on the regional economies and communities. Arataki used the information to compare how various regions and industries would be impacted by COVID-19. The tool is also useful for supporting RLTPs, revisiting demand assumptions on key corridors, inputting into the spatial planning process, and considering possible support for vulnerable communities. The modelling has produced employment forecasts for each region and district over the 3 time periods of 2021, 25 and 2031. The 2021 forecasts carry greater certainty as they reflect the impacts of current events, with the 25 and 31 forecasts being less certain because of the potential for significant shifts over that time. It includes modelling of the economic impacts of the 3 Treasury COVID-19 scenarios to a regional scale to help us understand where the impacts might be greatest felt. You can access the tool on the Arataki website on Wakakatahi's website. The proposed plan for the 30-year plan will describe what the land transport system needs to look like to support people's wellbeing and livability in New Zealand in 2050. It sets out a 3-decade plan of what we need to accomplish. The plan will take the long-term policy direction set for the sector, including adopting the agreed outcomes framework and utilising any set targets and goals. Be place-based, focus on cities, regions, interregional corridors, and the national system. Uncover and explore the key factors influencing the future state, including different scenarios that reflect this uncertainty. Cover in sufficient detail the key responses across all the roles and levers Wakakatahi has, including regulation, planning investment, infrastructure, owner, operator, deliver, solution provider, and sector leadership. Provide sufficiently actionable positions to inform shorter-term plans, including but not limited to the pipeline of potential future investments and new areas of innovation needed. Also provide a digital platform that will be included, which will provide the supporting evidence and insights presented spatially by place with interactive maps, data, working documents, and technical reports. 2 rounds of funding have been allocated for Innovating Streets for People pilot fund. And the pilot fund is now closed. 13.95 million for the first round and 10.1 million for the second round was approved. 71 projects that make streets more people friendly will be delivered across the country before June 2021. Applicants needed to meet strict criteria to be tactical urbanism projects, including a need for the project to be co-designed with the community and the project being temporary but with a pathway to permanence. Projects follow a dynamic and adaptive approach. The Innovating Streets team is supporting projects to be developed, installed and adapted in a range of towns and cities. For the Bay of Plenty, we have in Whakatane 3 projects being funded. The Wairaka Muriwai Neighbourhood Greenway project will work towards creating a more people-focused neighbourhood, promoting active modes of transport and supporting safer traffic speeds through the area, while enabling better connections between Whakatane River and the Wairaka Muriwai area. The Transforming Kopiopio project aims to allow the community to reimagine how the commercial section of King Street in Kopiopio could function in the future. And then the council are working with tangata whenua, the community and town centre businesses to co-design and activate space on the Kahuaroa Drive, responding to the community's growing desire to create safe walking and cycling spaces reflective of the State Street's experience of lockdown. In Tauranga, Tauranga has undertaken an innovative trial of temporary road and cycleway changes in Mount Maunganui. The initiative helps to deliver on Council's goals of creating a vibrant city that is easy and safe to get around. The community will be able to test temporary changes to a highly used cycle and pedestrian environment, not only to improve road safety, but to create spaces people will enjoy. Key features of the project will be to test a separated cruiseway along Marine Parade and Pilot Bay and improve safety and amenity at the Tay Street Marine Parade intersection. The project will be designed in partnership with the local communities to make streets safer with more space for people, and will test layouts, materials and designs to inform permanent upgrades. One of the actions in the first Road to Zero action plan is to adopt a new approach to tackling unsafe speeds. A key part of this approach is new setting of speed limits rule, which enables a new regulatory framework for the speed management. The proposed new rule currently being drafted would change the way RCA, road controlling authorities plan and implement speed management changes, and requires them to introduce lower speed limits around schools. The Ministry of Transport circulated a early engagement document on these proposed changes in July, and road controlling authorities have provided feedback. In the meantime, we're updating our guidance on both speed management and school safety through to 2021 to reflect Road to Zero. This will include updating Mega Maps, our speed management tool, adding the proposed One Network framework, replacing the One Network road classification into our speed management guidance, and including any changes from the proposed new settings of speed limit rules. We'll continue to engage on this draft guidance once the proposed new rule has been consulted on, finalised and signed by the Minister. In the meantime, road controlling authorities can still process speed limit changes, including around schools, under the current rule, but should be mindful of the objectives of the Road to Zero for speed management, as well as proposed changes to the current rule. The recently released government policy statement on land transport demonstrates a commitment to safety, mode neutrality, livable cities, regional economic development, climate change, and delivering the best possible value for money. We're looking to support our partners where we are leading transport infrastructure to deliver on the GPS on land transport and provide healthy streets and greater spaces for people. To support this, we're developing an urban street guide. The guide is one of the Road to Zero actions and will set out an understanding of urban streets in New Zealand and support existing best practice. We'll bring together updates to the cycling network guidance, pedestrian planning guidance, and public transport design guidance to create a suite of technical guidance in the urban mobility space. It will also be a practical tool to link spatial and network planning processes such as the One Network framework to street design and connect the concepts of movement function, place function, and modal priority with these updated guidelines. Continue to work with the sector to develop the guide by mid-2021. We're pleased to introduce our prototype of the new regional road safety dashboard. This product is a new way to present regional road safety information, aligning with the 5 focus areas of New Zealand's road safety strategy, Road to Zero. The dashboard presents information in an interactive way so regions can see how their road transport system is performing across a range of road safety issues. It's designed to help regions plan and prioritise their interventions to make roads and streets safer for everyone. This dashboard is part of a broader refresh of the regional road safety resources Whakakuratahi provides to local government and road safety practitioners to support the delivery of Road to Zero. Our regional teams will continue to engage with you on the new dashboard and show how it works, and we'll be very keen to hear any feedback. We realise there's a lot happening in the project space in the Bay of Plenty region at the moment, and we, as mentioned earlier, we propose to provide the RTC members with a more in-depth update in a 60-minute briefing. We've got by end of January here, but preferably sooner if that's acceptable to members. The team would like to possibly schedule that before Christmas if members were acceptable with that. I understand it's a busy time of the year and everyone's got a long on, but we'd like to offer that up. Predominantly to cover Takatimu Northlink, the Bay Lake project and Rotorua projects, but we're also happy to cover any other projects within the region where there's some questions around current status of those.
So thank you for that, Cole. Are you in a position to make any comments at all today to this formal meeting with regards to delays on Takatimu?
No, I haven't got any messages to provide today, but I'm happy to follow up with the key personnel involved and bring an update back to the committee. That's okay.
It's an incredibly busy time for everybody, but we'll see if we can fit it in. Councillor Nees, open for discussion. Councillor Nees, then is Worship Mayor Webber.
Thank you, Cole. Great to have you here reporting to us. A couple of things for me, and I understand and I recognise that Whakakuratahi is doing a lot of work in improving systems and providing guidance, etc. But it's a bit frustrating that we're already starting on our prioritisation and you are still working on your prioritisation framework that we're supposed to echo. And similarly, you've got a 30-year strategy coming out in June when we sign off our RLTP. The Regional Council signs it off on the 17th of June. So how can you help us make sure that we get alignment of our RLTP with what the strategy is going to say? Are we just supposed to be looking in a crystal ball, or are you able to give us an earlier peek on what is going to happen?
Yeah, sure. So at the moment we've got Arataki in place, which has a 10-year outlook. So we see that as a key document currently in terms of informing RLTPs, which have a similar timeframe outlook. So the next stage of Arataki extending out to 30 years will be more looking at from that 10 to 30 year timeframe, looking at more in the longer term. The key outputs of that will help inform the next RLTP and LTP processes. And yeah, as always, we'll work really closely with council staff as both the drop prioritisation method is released, and as the Arataki work develops as well, just to inform staff and they're aware of any impact that might have in terms of their programming on activities.
So do I understand then that the 30-year strategy is a 30-year view of Arataki? It's not a MOT designed transport strategy.
So it would be led by Waka Kotahi, and it would be Waka Kotahi's view in terms of the next 30 years on the land transport system.
Right, okay.
But in saying that, we'll be working really closely with MOT and other government departments and the sector as we develop that.
Right, and I've got one other question, if you don't mind. I noted that you've had a significant drop in your state highway maintenance budget going forward. At the GPS, it was signalled that had dropped. Yesterday, I happened to travel over the Kaimais, and I was actually shocked at how bumpy it is. For a little car, we were bouncing all over the road, and it occurred to me that major routes like that are at risk, and they cause huge safety problems if they're not kept up to standard. So is there major work, do you know, proposed for the Kaimais to address that lumpiness? And I think the same on State Highway 36 to Rotorua. I think we have the same issue.
So I don't have details in terms of the maintenance program, but certainly something I can bring back to the committee.
Okay, His Worship Mayor Webber, Councillor Baldock, Councillor Donaldson, His Worship.
You seem to always get in the firing line, and it's not you didn't write the document, but you do speak well. My real concern, and I'd like some comment on, you start off with real focuses to the completion of existing projects, and I think it's time we face up to the funding dilemma. In the GPS and the hypothecated fund, there is no significant increase in revenue going forward, but the cost side is going through the roof. I'd be more than happy to talk on the Takatimu drive, because we did have a presentation last night. That will just frighten people. I suppose that the real concern I've got is we're about to go into a regional land transport fund, and I think, Mr. Chair, this is really to us around the table. Our application has to be best in competition. We've got to be aiming to get nominated for the Olympic selection, because the funding's not there. And all I hear coming through that we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. We can't do what we've already got. The fund is not going forward. So I wonder, is the people that are writing the reports, and I understand the aspirational side, are they looking at the funding side to saying there's a mismatch here? Because the guidance coming from the GPS does not give me any confidence that we really are grappling the real issues. And I just wonder if the writers of these reports and these aspirational goals are lined up with the hypothecated fund, and how that's declining, but the cost side is going through the roof. I'm more than happy if you want me to give you a highlight on the Takatimu Northern.
Cole, can you respond to that? Then we'll invite His Worship to comment on Takatimu.
Certainly, as earlier alluded, the funding environment is very tight. And in terms of a lot of the guidance we're looking to deliver to the sector, it's more to inform, majority of the guidance is to inform the detailed design for initiatives. So really support and guide the sector in terms of sort of best practice in those areas. So it'll be picking up projects that do get funded, that are proposed for next LTP, and being of use to those projects in terms of supporting the design of those. I think, particularly in the region, we've got a number of initiatives that have sort of set that long-term direction. Now we'll move into delivery, like the transport system plan. It'd be great to have that guidance as we go through into delivering some of those key moves and help support those processes. But yes, certainly hear your concerns around funding environment and sort of raising the expectations around some of the guidance that's coming out. But I can reassure you those teams are linked. So they're aware of the situation.
Would you like to?
I suppose
Oh, go on.
the Takatimu situation.
Can I just remind you we're an open session, so
Yes, I understand that. This was a public session last night. 933 million has been set aside for four laning with interchanges and all that sort of thing. But I think people need to be aware that not all the land has been purchased. The design is not done. We do not know how 15th Avenue and Takatimu is going to connect yet. And as I said 3 years ago when I spoke to this committee on Western Bay submission, the reports, we have done so many, they keep on coming up with the same answer. The only thing that's changed is the accident rate on the road's gone up and the usage on the road's gone up. And so I'm really concerned that we have this grandiose scheme of four laning all the way out to Makaroa. The land purchases are a long way from completed. And when you look at 933 million, I know how much is going to get chewed into that by just buying the land. And so I wonder whether we're actually looking at this seriously. It's not going to happen by end of last year, as we were told. It's not going to happen, I don't think, by the end of next year either, because there are so many hurdles to go through. Just purchasing the land at the front end between around 15th Avenue and Takatimu Drive. So I just wonder whether we're creating expectations, and I understand where Wakatate are coming from, but I just wonder if it's time we really started facing up to the real issue, is the $50 billion that was put up in the CIP fund, which is coming in through this project. That is got reducing ability to pay and higher demands for what's in there. Because, we're competing with schools, hospitals, and I just think there is I don't want to use the word train wreck because there's quite a few of those in this district at the moment we're looking down at. But we have to face up to this somehow. And I really come back to our regional land transport plan. It's going to have to be something superb because the competition for funds is so damn high.
So you wish I would happy for you to give consideration to a resolution, reflecting your frustration and that of the Tauranga and Western Bay community. So I'm happy to come back to you if you'd like to move in that direction. I'm happy to accept it.
I think pretty much the world is aware of our frustration.
Okay, moving on, everyone. Councillor Baldock, Councillor Donaldson, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Baldock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You have to throw your voice at the back wall, Councillor.
Trust you can all hear me okay?
Yes.
Cole, there's two questions, and it's following on from where Webber was. I support his comments on the frustration of the delay, but the little piece that he referred to, the 15th Ave to Takatimu Drive, we need to know whether that's happening before or after or at the last end, and if it's in the design contract that's being awarded, for two reasons. And if you can't answer today, maybe in the update, it would be really good. But because we're starting construction on Cameron Road, it's going to be even worse issues there. And having that access done at the beginning of the contract instead of at the end would make a big difference if we knew it was going to happen. But our ambulances, our first responders are locked into 17th Ave. And there's been a project since Mayor Crosby was there back in about 15 or 16 to give them a dedicated access to Takitimu Drive. So if we know it's not happening and it's going to be another year delay and another year delay, we would like to see that project. I have a lot of support from my colleagues on this. We'd like to see that project advance so they can get to accidents. Some people may not die on the roads if they get an ambulance there quick enough. And when they have to go all the way down Cameron Road, or, the other way. So can we get some certainty from NZTA? One, is it in the design package in March? And can it be advanced, even if we're waiting for land purchases on the other end of the project? Can we get that one in play so that it relieves the pressure there? And if not, can we get support to actually get that dedicated access for the ambulances? It can be done, it's achievable, it's going to be under the 2 million kind of criteria for a project. Can we get a serious response to that from you at the next briefing? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Through Chair, my apologies, I can't comment on that today, but certainly we'll cover that in our separate update.
So Cole, just reassuring everyone here today, these are all going to be covered in detail in this pre-Christmas soon.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on, Councillor Donaldson, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Glad to hear you suggest the 1 hour briefing as a Zoom. That's probably the only way to pull it off with any effect. Just a couple of comments really. The Innovating Streets for People Pilot Fund, Rotorua has a project running there as well. And that we secured 100k from the fund and using that in conjunction with 5 million from the CIP fund for Eastern Local Roads, co-designed with Tato Pounamu. Pleased to see your bullet point on a focus on the investment in reliable, sustainable public transport services, and I'll save my thoughts on that to another agenda item, Mr. Chair. Comments on that. And the only other one was your update on speed management changes. So Rotorua's Rural Board went through an exercise with all the rural schools and looked for speed management or speed changes outside rural schools in Rotorua. We would like that progress at pace if we could. So supportive of those speed management changes being considered, but we'd like to progress that one in particular.
Big Zoom. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Resource Management Act reforms are proposing 2 new pieces of legislation, one of which is the new Strategic Planning Act. And that act is looking to integrate the Local Government Act, the Land Transport Management Act, and the Climate Change Response Act. My question is or has Waka Kotahi's future focus and its strategic thinking integrating what this is actually going to mean?
Through your Chair, yes, we're working with wider government officials as that develops, and yes, we'll definitely bring that in any of our future strategy work. That'll be a key input in terms of setting that framework for Arataki at the 30-year view.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, a question to you, if I may. Would it be possible to ask for a report to come to this committee on the implications of those proposed legislative changes and what that actually might mean in terms of ROTPs going forward? Thank you.
More than happy to do that, Councillor. Namuta, would you like to comment?
Yes, through the chair, we can do that.
Any further questions or comments to Waka Kotahi? There being none, Deputy Mayor Salisbury.
I'd just like to know if there's any way that we can look at a dedicated Revan Clearway bus lanes as part of the project from Bay Fair to Bay Park. Has that been considered in any of the design options?
Yes, sorry, through you, I can't, don't have that detail on me today, but I understand it has been part of previous considerations. Something I can definitely cover at the the 1 hour workshop covering that project. Make sure that we provide an update on that.
Councillor Lees.
Oh, sorry, if I could just comment about that. We did have quite a heated discussion at the Public Transport Committee. A little bit of frustration about park and rides not being progressed at Tamanga because there was going to be congestion on that part of the network and going through to units, and that it was discounted as something to be added in the next couple of years because of the congestion. Of course, if we could get that dedicated bus lane or freeway or P3 lane or whatever, it would actually ease the traffic congestion and it would perhaps potentially help the public transport network hugely and fit very well with the GPS. So it would be great if you could sort of shake the tree a bit with that one. Thank you.
And just to add to that, through the Urban Form Transport Initiative and the Tauranga System Plan, that there is an action that we would partner with other partners to look at the Hewletts Road area and also that sub area as well. So I think things like that will help define what response is required that comes through that area as well. But happy to expand on that project.
Deputy Mayor Isles and Glenn Crowther.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Cole, after reviewing the Whakakotahi projects for the Eastern Bay, we've noted the omission of the Waimana Gorge Resilience Project. And can we have that reinstated?
Yeah, so through Chair, so it's certainly a draft investment proposal at this stage, and we're really keen for feedback like that and to understand what's missing. As always with these things, there's a certain amount of funding that's available, and we have to prioritise things nationally, but things like that we'll test to see if we can bring them in and see whether we can bring them into that final Whakakotahi investment proposal.
I think it was noted that it was not the only access route, but it is the preferred access route.
Glenn.
Just backtracking to the bus lanes, I just wonder if it's possible to have a sort of a drop dead date included in the report when those lanes have to be installed on that project, because I'm aware that we may have already passed that date according to a music spoken to.
It's going to be a very long Zoom, I can see that, covering a myriad of subjects. Okay, there's no further questions or comments. I'll move that we receive the Whakakotahi update and note its contents. Seconded Councillor Neave. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Moving over, page 30, the hard copy, the appointment of the external advisor. This has been before this committee on a number of occasions, and this is now formalising that request. Before I open it for discussion, my view is that, as you've seen in the Regional Land Transport Plan annual report, we've got the most serious injuries since 2007 still occurring in this area, and no sustained improvement. And if anyone is querying with regards external advisors, you'll recall that some meetings back there is a request from the floor that we invite Kiwi Rail to participate. Those discussions are still ongoing. So I will move the recommendation. Is there a seconder?
Yes.
Mayor Reestra, it's open for discussion. It's been moved and seconded, it's open for discussion. Any questions or comments? Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yes, I am a member of the AA, like others around the table. And I thought a bit about this because I quite often get lobbied by an AA board member resident in Rotorua on matters of on transport matters, but also get approached by New Zealand Motorhome and Caravan Association, and I see there's a paper in here as well, something to do with the Responsible Camping Association. So there are a number of interest groups. I know the AA has a formidable membership, and I'm ambivalent, so I certainly wouldn't vote against this. But I do think in the area of committee advisors, the one that sort of stares me in the face is an iwi advisor. And I'm just thinking of His Worship's comments about land purchases. That was always the sticking point on the Rotorua Eastern Arterial, and a number of other significant projects as we ran foul of that. Iwi are certainly overrepresented in matters of access to public transport, and they're overrepresented in the deprivation stats in our district, and we can talk more about that in the workshop. So I just put that out there. I'd certainly vote in support of the AA advisor, and I've full confidence in the way a meeting would flow with that presence. But those are just my comments.
Councillor Baldock.
Mr. Chair, if I could just ask what the recommendation actually means, consider the opportunity. I thought we might be, not myself without a vote, but you might be deciding to go ahead with that appointment, whereas it seems to sound like it's just further.
That's my understanding, is that we're resolving today to invite the Automobile Association to nominate an appointee to come to this committee as an advisor. So that's Councillor Donson, with regards to your comments about tangata whenua representation, I'll invite Maruta to speak to that, and no doubt a paper could come forward.
So through the chair, absolutely, we will come back with a paper on how we can make that happen if that is the direction from the committee.
In terms of the AA appointee, it's been moved and seconded. Any further? His Worship, Mayor Weber.
Once I have difficulty with this. I think we've got to look at what's the purpose of this committee. This is a strategic committee looking at transport networks for the region. And I think we've got to work out the difference between strategy development and public consultation. Because if you're looking at the AA, then I would ask, why is the freight industry not represented? The motorhome is not represented. And my understanding is that's where the consultation is done. We go out for consultation on a regular basis to get the input from these different sectors. If we have them all around the table, it's going to end up as a cast of 1,000, and I don't know if that is good governance. So I understand what the question is, but I just wonder, where does it start and where does it stop, and how do we have an effective strategic governance organisation? So I couldn't support this because I think we're blurring governance and management here.
Any further speakers for or against? Councillor Donson.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
We'll deal with the issue of the tangata whenua in a separate.
I appreciate that, but adding that into the mix and bearing in mind the comments just made by Mayor Weber, I think the resolution allows for consideration, and maybe the matter is considered by staff in a wider context, and it is brought back again for a final decision on that approach, rather than because the resolution as it stands doesn't ask us to appoint a member. We consider it. So we've considered it, made comments. It could come back to a future meeting with a wider discussion. I'll leave it.
With due respect, this has been hovering around in various guises for over 12 to 18 months, I would think. And this is where it's landed today. You can either support it, or Mayor Weber's indicated he will vote against it. But I do intend to put it as it stands, deleting the words considers the opportunity to appoint a member of the New Zealand Automobile Association as an external advisor to this committee. Any further speakers again? Or against? There being none, I'll put it. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? No. You want your vote recorded, Mayor Weber?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Mayor Weber's vote will be recorded against that motion. Okay, moving on, can we just pick up on your comments, Councillor Donaldson, around tangata whenua representation? Are you happy to move that the paper come back to this committee? Mayor Weber.
Look, that's that. The point I'm trying to make, what is the makeup of this committee? Because you've got to consider iwi, and I understand that's valuable. Who else do we want? So let's do it once, do it properly, and work out what is the structure we want, And somebody may want to go and check out the difference between governance and management before they write the report.
But in terms of rail representation, that was a very strong push, as we recall, that it was believed there was a specific gap at the table with regards to rail. Your worship.
Absolutely, but look at the reason behind it. No,
They also declined the invitation, I might add, sorry.
I understand that, but that is because if you look at our transport network strategies, rail is an integral part of it, as is public transport. So that's why there was a suggestion to bring rail.
Just in the, I don't want to prolong this, but just in defence of the AA coming as an advisor, as you know, the police are advisors to this committee. Well, Inspector Crow's an apology today and had nothing to contribute to the meeting, as we recall, of the last meeting. So I think one of the gaps that will be plugged will having the AA and the Automobile Association here. So Deputy Mayor Hiles.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would certainly second Deputy Mayor Donaldson's thoughts on having a review, or certainly having iwi representation looked into.
Your Worship, Mayor Reestra.
Yes, I'd just like to point out the 10th bullet point on our role for this committee, which is to monitor and provide advocacy on regional road safety matters. And I actually believe having an independent advisor from the NZAA would actually further our understanding and knowledge required to do that better.
Thank you. Any further comments? I'll ask Anita now to encapsulate something pertaining to tangata whenua that you can either vote for or vote down.
So through the chair, we could add a further recommendation to consider tangata whenua representation on the Regional Transport Committee and report back at the next committee.
You happy with that, Councillor Long?
Just tangata whenua advisory representation.
Yes, an external, become an external advisor. It's been seconded, Councillor Hiles, it's open, but, Your Worship, it's been moved and seconded.
Is that one or many?
It'll be one individual nominated by.
So tangata whenua, one representative for the whole of Bay of Plenty? Hallelujah to that.
Can I speak to?
Just pause. Yeah. Pause 1 moment. Namita, then Deputy Mayor Donaldson.
So through the chair, staff can investigate the best way to consider tangata whenua representation and bring back a report on that.
Councillor Donaldson, make it easy.
Yes, just in response to His Worship's comments, I fully understand where he's coming from, having been on a number of project steering committees around wastewater and other infrastructure. It gets down to engagement, gets down to sub-iwi level, to hapu level. But an advisor who can point out with a strategic view the fishhooks of what's proposed by the strategic committee. So just a wider view, there'll always be hapu and local interests to be considered as part of engagement on any project, but there is an opportunity to have someone who's got that iwi lens to give you that forward-looking viewpoint of roadblocks along the way with any project.
As part of the process, we would also consult our 3 iwi councillors. So it's been moved and seconded. I'll put it. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Aye. Thank you. All those moving on. Okay, thank you so much. And Namita, can you lead us through page 41, hard copy, everyone, the Regional Land Transport Plan Annual Report. We've jumped on page 33, everyone. Namita.
So through the chair, we have a report on page 33 of your agendas, which looks at the Regional Land Transport Plan variation in terms of the Rotorua Transport Strategic Review. And understand we've got staff in support of this. If we have any additional questions, we will take the report as read. This builds on the work that we presented previously to the Public Transport Committee, and we are seeking a variation to include it as part of this Regional Land Transport Plan. So happy to take questions.
Worship Mayor Weber.
Got to move the recommendation.
Happy to move. Seconded, councillor Hall, question or seconded?
I'll second.
Seconded, and also a question, go for it.
Yes, thank you. Should we add this in? And I'm very conscious of the fact that at the Public Transport Committee, we had impassioned pleas from a number of people around the table to speed up the process, because we were talking consultation not until 2023. I think.
14 months.
Yes. If that, and staff were going to consider that and come back, so I accept that this is a way of getting the strategic review into the current RLTP, but should it be brought through, I didn't see anything in the new proposed RLTP that picks this all up and implements it if it's brought forward, because projects don't automatically carry through from RLTP to RLTP. So my question is, yes, we say yes, put the strategic review in this time around. Do we also need to consider having a business case or something else for the Rotorua Network review in the upcoming RLTP?
So through the chair, I'll get guidance from staff in terms of that one.
We'll ask them to comment. Come up now, James and Andrew, ready for the next item. So sit right at the top end. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further questions around? I'll put it all those in favour. Deputy Mayor Donaldson, we're speaking to the Rotorua issue here, the variation.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the Deputy Chair for raising the issue of speeding up this process. The view of the Rotorua Safe and Sustainable Journeys team is that if it's delayed in conducting this review, we'll see continued decline for the next 7 years of patronage on public transport. This is all part of our journey towards mode neutrality, and so we do really want to see this sped up if it's possible. I understand it's a decision of our friends at the Regional Council, but also, Mr. Chair, you'd be aware we are going to be coming under increased pressure regarding emissions in the Rotorua airshed, moving from PM10 particulate matter to potentially PM2.5 being something we have to comply with. So I think accelerating everything we can in reducing emissions and mode neutrality is very important in the Rotorua context. So if the resolution encapsulates trying to accelerate that, we'd be very happy.
Just be assured, Phil Thomas sold it very well last Friday at Councillor Bob Ellison's meeting, and it got unanimous support, so it was certainly pulled back from the 14 months. Your Worship.
Using my right to reply, I just want to comment, I think it should be transfer paying 2021, not 2018, because that's 3 years old. I think it should be 2021, not 2018, and the reason for bringing it in means that it does get accelerated. We have to have the business case, we have to go through the process. It's not just there as somewhere on the shelf to park it, it's there to do it.
It's been moved and seconded. I'll put it all those in favour, please say aye. Against carried.
Aye.
Councillor. Thank you, Your Worship. Would you like to pose your question to James Llewellyn again?
Yes, but did you hear my question, James? Do we need, if it's brought forward, and we've yet to get that reported back to the Public Transport Committee, but if it is brought forward, do we need to make provision for either a business case or the implementation of it in a program within the upcoming RLTP?
Yeah, so this request is simply to fund the indicative business case in this RLTP, and then it will be up to the next RLTP to decide whether any further business case work is required, or actually whether we can go and implement some activities. So the discussion this afternoon in the workshop will start to tease out some of those priorities for the next RLTP. So we've got now a series of options that we summarised at the PTC last week, and we are making a firm commitment following that meeting to undertake the public consultation as part of next year's LTP, so bringing it forward effectively from 2022.
So it would be potentially added in towards the end of the consultation process of this RLP, because it's not there at the moment.
So this RLTP, all we're saying is we want the funding to undertake the indicative business case, and then depending on what the public consultation says, and also what the consultation on the RLTP says, there'll be a decision about where the priority for any investment would sit in that next RLTP.
No, just a comment that the regional council has to put that program forward as the authority that would be paying for it. So it's just how, if this business case does justify it occurring in the first 3 years of the next RLTP, just making sure that we are very clear on the mechanism by which we're going to add it into the next RLTP.
We would suggest that as one of the significant activities if it was over $2 million, and it would be prioritised against all the other activities. Alternatively, there could be low cost, low risk projects under 2 million that we could also look to prioritise. So yeah, you're right.
It's worship there, Weber.
It's more a comment than a question. We could be bold and try and do it within 3 years, because if we have to wait every 3 years to make a decision, this could take some time. And so, it's not, we will do the indicative business case in this RLTP and do the real business case in the following RLTP. Snail racing becomes an attractive pastime.
You're in good form today, Your Worship. Okay, move on. Page 41, hard copy, everybody. Andrew and James, floor is yours.
Kia ora koutou everyone, my name's Andrew Williams and I'm a Transport Planner here at Regional Council. Today I'll briefly present the findings of the RLTP Annual Report Card 1920, which you have a copy of at page 45 of your agenda. The Annual Report Card measures progress towards achieving the objectives in the 2018 RLTP. The 1920 Report Card reports on the second year of the RLTP. And the first page, which you can see illustrated on the screen, provides actual performance against RLTP targets where applicable. There is no or insufficient data available for 11 indicators. This is a higher number than usual with data collection impacted by COVID-19. For example, the Ministry of Transport's Household Travel Survey was not undertaken and that affected 6 KPIs alone. For indicators that could be measured, 40% of these met or exceeded their targets. I'll just now run through some of the highlights, or maybe not such highlights. This graph illustrates state highway traffic volumes at continuously monitored sites throughout the region from the year 2000 to 2019. The blue line illustrates all vehicles, while the red illustrates heavy vehicles. As you can see, state highway traffic volumes continue to increase, which is not a surprise. This data is indexed from baseline average from the year 2000. This image provides a bit more of a detailed picture of where that traffic's coming from. And has a cordon around the Tauranga urban area and the traffic flows from all the major corridors. Traffic corridors include the East Coast main trunk, heading east and west, which is the 2 blue graphs, and I know you can't reread those numbers, it's more for illustrative purposes. But over the last 5 years, what we can say is that there's been an approximate 5% growth per annum on all major road corridors. The East Coast main trunk has seen a 0.7% increase from the west and a 3.2% increase from the east. This graph illustrates freight volumes on the East Coast main trunk. For the 1920 year, almost 1.4 billion net tonne kilometres of rail freight was moved to, from, or within the region. Approximately 442,000 containers were carried on the East Coast main trunk line. That's down 10.4% on the previous year.
and this reduction can be attributed to COVID-19 lockdown and associated economic impacts.
So if you want to go back to the previous slide. So what have we got there? That's
Microphone there.
sick.
That's net tonne kilometres on the East Coast main trunk line.
And but you were translating that in container volumes.
Illustrated there. No, I just said that's approximately 442,000 containers, but that's illustrated there as net tonne kilometres. So for this last year, 442,000 containers approximately were transported within the region. Does that answer your question?
I'd just be keen to have a look at it in a bit more detail.
Yeah, sure, I can provide that. Moving on to deaths and serious injuries. This illustrates DSIs from 2001 to 2019. The blue line is fatalities and the green line is serious injuries. For the 19-20 year, fatalities are up 6 on the previous year to 39. And serious injuries increased significantly by 56 to 205, rising to the worst level since 2007. 5-year rolling average, illustrated by the red line, notes this increasing trend. Alcohol and speed are still major issues and contributed to 43% and 22% of all DSIs respectively. This graph illustrates average annual nitrogen dioxide levels for 5 sites in Tauranga and 1 in Rotorua. Tauranga is represented in blue and Rotorua in red. Nitrogen dioxide levels is a marker of exposure to traffic-related emissions. The World Health Organization considers that concentrations above 30 micrograms begin to cause adverse effects on human health. The 2019 result of 24.7 for Tauranga illustrates a slight shift away from the 30 microgram level, but it's still relatively close to World Health guidelines. And just to summarise, there's a few key messages which are reflected in the report. Through the chair, I have a question.
It's worship me with.
Go back to the previous slide, please.
Yeah.
Can you explain, you talked about traffic volumes have gone up 5% and year on year they continue, but emissions are going down. Is there some correlation between more efficient vehicles, or is there some explanation for that?
There may be an issue with one of the data sites was shifted from, I think it was by Bay Park, that was removed, but that didn't affect this trend from 2011 to 2019, so I'm not sure exactly how that has worked out, and I have considered that question myself. I haven't been able to answer it yet, so I can go back and.
Well, it's just if you start shifting the data sets, forget the graph. It's always
well, that data set hasn't included the site that was shifted. This has got 5 sites within Tauranga that's across 2019, so that data set is consistent. I've just removed the one that had been removed from site. So I can't answer the question in terms of why it has dipped here and now.
Just while you reload your armory,
Through the chair as well, and likely Andrew will touch on it too, we are definitely seeing an increase in electric vehicles as well. So you can draw conclusions too.
Yeah.
Clean Crowder.
Just a response to the chair, like the number of EVs compared to the number of increased vehicles though is, is quite relative. So I think, with this point would still hold, and perhaps be emphasised even more by the vehicle numbers.
Councillor Nees.
Just a possible explanation is it's a state highway that's and heavy traffic volumes that's increased, but the fuel volume's gone down. It may be the internal urban trips dropped in COVID. People locked down, didn't hop in their car and go so many places. I know I certainly didn't. So that could have been a contributing factor.
Sorry, your worship, another swing, go for it.
this is a trend over 2 years, so I don't think 3 months of COVID actually is a significant impact.
Any further questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Donaldson.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. The site and one site in Rotorua, could you tell me where that is, please?
I can, I'll just have a look at this piece of paper here, it's all right.
Because I do know on the Air Quality Committee, we've got one site in Western Heights, but one in Ngāpuna. So there's 2 sites measuring air quality over there.
It's on the corner of Old Taupo Road and Victoria Street,
Okawatu Street.
Street.
Old Taupo Road, Boys High.
Thank you.
That's the one site there, yeah.
Any further questions or comments? Councillor Rose, it's your voice at the back wall, councillor, just so we can hear you.
I just wanted to ask staff in regards to their figures on the amount of injuries and deaths caused by different things. Alcohol, speed and drugs is what they've got there, but they're missing 21%. So what's that last 21%? That is page 47.
Yeah, so in terms of the total there, if there's 21% missing, that just comes from other contributing factors. So that means that alcohol, speed and drugs wouldn't have been a contributing factor. All those other, the other 21%.
I'm just saying it would have been nice to have put something in there to actually give examples for that.
Okay.
As well.
Sure. Yeah, I can look at doing that.
Any further questions or comments? Glenn, in his worship, Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just through you, the comment on page 43, transport emissions were reduced and there's been further uptake of electric vehicles. No doubt there's been further uptake of electric vehicles, so not problem with that. But in terms of the emissions being reduced, are you talking about the nitrous oxide emissions? No, nitrous dioxide, sorry.
Yeah, so that probably refers to nitrogen. Nitrogen dioxide levels, but I probably shouldn't make the direct correlation yet without confirming whether that has to do with increasing number of electric vehicles, or we're obviously seeing an increase in heavy vehicles and vehicles in general. So, yeah, I'm not sure exactly whether you can make a correlation yet between that increase in EVs.
It might be helpful perhaps for the minutes to clarify the emissions refers to the nitrogen dioxide rather than CO2 or anything.
Yeah, sure.
And just the other point was on
It's been noted.
on the page 40, actually, where there's a graph that looks very different in regards to the EV numbers compared to the text. So the text that states the target is to double the previous year, which is 592. And we got to 647, but the graph makes it look sort of more like a linear type increase, which seems a bit different when I looked at it. So I'm just wondering if you had any comment in terms of whether the graph was more accurate reflection or whether those numbers are actually correct.
No, those numbers are accurate. I guess maybe it's the way it's been illustrated in the graph, which may not look as clear as what it, I think is what could. That's the one, energy efficiency one on the back page, right? Yeah, so I guess the target's hidden by the bar graph in that respect, that the target is behind the bar, so maybe we could bring the target to be in front of the bar so we know that it's where it is in terms of.
But I'm just questioning the bar itself, because the bar for 2018 shows looks to me more like 392 than 592. So the figure is provided as 592, but the graph shows under 400. So the question is, have we nearly achieved our doubling in the region, or have we missed it by such a huge factor that it's a major concern?
Yeah, I see the mistake in the graph. We have achieved the target by more than doubling it, but I'll make sure that that's represented more clearly in the graph.
Through the chair, what's the number that shows for more than double it? That seems a different number again.
So if we go to the front page, we've got Electric vehicles, and under energy efficiency, we've got electric vehicles, the target is 592, which is a doubling from the previous year, but the actual is 647, so that's EV registrations in the region. So we've achieved our target, but what I understand is the graph isn't clear enough.
I like to sit down sometime and have to, yeah, so just for me to understand that. Thank you.
Okay.
Your Worship.
Looking forward to the next RLTP. I wonder if we want to take more of a cause and effect. To me, the fundamental thing that's missing out of this is our project implementation. How are we going to target? Because a lot of the things we're going to do, like putting in bus stops and parking rides, was to reduce emissions. We're going to fix the roads up. That was going to reduce deaths and serious injuries. So this is all the effects. Really, if we don't do the front end, which is complete the project, which will hopefully reduce these, and we're not reporting on it. I mean, it's a fundamental thing we should be reporting on. So looking forward, whether you want to put some thought into how you would rewrite this for the next RLTP.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
If there's no further questions or comments, I will move that we receive the 2019-2020 annual report card, transport plan. Councillor Nees, I'll put it all those in favour, please say aye. Against carry.
Aye.
We're coming to the end of our meeting, and if I can just do a quick round robin. I'll start with you, Your Worship, and Portiki. Anything you'd like to put on the table as we close this meeting?
Yes, and if you don't mind, I'd just quite like to refer back to page 26 of our agenda, where in the Waka Kotahi report, they have talked a little bit about the Opotiki Harbour development. First of all, the Opotiki District Council has finished that road that takes all of the trucks out to the site there. And in there, it explains there is a future wharf. Well, actually, that's not correct. We're developing harbour walls or groins. So I was hoping that might need be changed for there being the correct information in there. There is no wharf out at the entrance to the sea. It's going to be harbour walls or groins, whatever we prefer to use there. But Waka Kotahi have been really good and have helped us achieve getting that done in a very quick amount of time, so that our construction company, HIB, have moved on to site and are working there now. So the roading has made a really, it's a fantastic road. And the only other thing that I would like to comment on through you, Chair, is around safety when it comes to speed reviews. And I know that Cole will be pretty upset that I'm going to mention it yet again in 2 days in a row, but the lack of speed in being able to change where we have asked, local knowledge is asking for a reduction in speed in certain areas within our own districts. And I'm explaining this because it's for Opotiki is on state highways, where we have had quite a few deaths and serious accidents. Every time we've brought it up, and I think it's something that I have mentioned at every meeting I've been to for some time now, every time we bring it up and they refer back to their organisation and still nothing is done. So I was hoping that this particular committee could actually put some pressure on Waka Kotahi to try and work out how best to achieve this is reduction in speeds on state highways when local districts have actually asked for them. That's it from me. Thank you.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Isles, anything you'd like to say as we close the meeting?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to sort of Wainui road safety improvements are in some cases completed, but as in other places are well underway. two other road to zero road safety projects in the proposed RLTP that will address the other main issues of high crash risk in the Whakatane district are both on the Thornton Road. Staff have had a very positive meeting with the Bay of Plenty Regional Council's new transport planning manager to discuss WTC and the Bay of Plenty Regional Council's working together on cycle trail opportunities. And the Bay of Plenty Regional Council has offered support in principle. Also discussed at the same meeting was the up and coming review of the public transport services for the Eastern Bay of Plenty due to commence in the new year, noting that Whakatane District Council are keen to work together with the Bay of Plenty regional staff on this project. There are a number of opportunities for improvements to the existing service provided, including the consideration of on-demand services. Another note there is we've met with Waka Kotahi planners to discuss the upcoming Eastern Bay of Plenty mode shift plan, which is also due to commence next year. Work will also be commencing with Waka Kotahi on the Eastern Bay of Plenty speed management review within the next 6 months. And the Whakatane access project is drawing to a close and will inform improvements for access into and through Whakatane. The recommendations from this report are informing projects proposed in the NLTP. As I mentioned earlier, Mr. Chair, the reviewing of the Waka Kotahi project for the Eastern Bay, we noted the omission of the Waimana Gorge resilience report, which we've asked to have reinstated.
Worship Mayor Webber, any final shots?
You all the best for Christmas. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Salisbury. Deputy Mayor Donaldson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Probably covered off most of the points. The only one I did want to highlight, and particularly because the police are not here today, is we're very happy with the way Waka Kotahi is managing the State Highway 30 Tino Road upgrade. That's progressing quite well, and the community has got used to the delays and are adjusting for that. So the traffic management's been really good, but what is evident, particularly by the amount of broken taillight lanes on the roadway, is people are not respecting the 30 km/h speed limit, and it just requires one worker to step out behind a digger, and we'll have a tragedy. So I just wonder if Waka Kotahi are raising that as a safety issue with the police and asking for some enforcement around that. It's just a concern that as an Eastside resident I certainly have, and I noted it again on at least 2 occasions this morning just travelling into council. Vehicles going through there at well over 70, which is the normal speed limit in the 30k area with workmen on site.
You Mayor Tūnui.
Thank you, Chair Thurston. If I can just say to Deputy Mayor Donaldson, all the compliant drivers must have been on the Maratar Straight, because I can guarantee you we were travelling 30 k's along that road, which took the trip from Kawerau more than 90 minutes this morning. So really heartened, and perhaps it is attributed to the unfortunate incident that we had in Maratar not so long ago. Chair Thurston, Cole, it won't be a surprise to Cole, but some of the key things for Kawerau, similar to Mirestra, is our State Highway 30 speed reviews. The review of the review of the review. I would suggest, echoing Mayor Webber's comments, it wouldn't take 3 years to undertake that review with our PGF industrial development happening at the moment. Let's take that as the golden opportunity to be able to join those two programs of work together and just get them done. So we're having the roundabout placed on our State Highway 34 at the moment. So we encourage Cole and everybody at NZTA to take that opportunity and let's just get that done nice and tidy. No need to drag that out. My second comment would be if I can just check with you, the comment you made about the invitation to Kiwi Rail to join the committee that was declined. Did I catch that earlier, or still being considered?
They've received invitations from various regional councils around the country, and at this point in time, they've declined all of them. So,
So yes, through the chair, just to reinforce the chairman's comments. Obviously, we did extend the invitation, and we understand that there is a consideration going on nationally in terms of QRL's involvement in regional transport committees. So we are yet to receive a formal decline, so we are just working through that.
They have pushback at this point in time. So.
Yeah, I'll just table that we are naturally disappointed. We've done a lot of work in our community to improve freight connections, which is of course one of the 4 key pillars. We would encourage that that would be reviewed. I'm sure my mayor would have no trouble revisiting that outcome. And just a comment of support to Namuta and the team around tangata whenua representation. Can I support you in seeking the guidance from your Māori ward representatives? It's while I acknowledge the intent to not tokenistically, but actually truly, wholly, fully form those relationships, it would be good to bring that down, I think, to a localised level. I would caution against having an iwi like Aotearangi commenting on a project that's actually happening in the Tūhono Whakatohia area, so really encourage you to seek that guidance. I think your ward representatives will be able to look after you and your staff in that intent and process. Thank you.
Councillor Leeds, anything?
Glenn?
Just a quick comment on the climate change issue with, well, I guess nationally you probably all know about the climate emergency, and more relevantly to this committee, the obligations for Crown ministries and other departments. I'd just like to also say how Whakatane Council has done extremely well to actually release a very well supported climate change, what's it called? Action plan, I think, with the emphasis on action. And I think Rotorua is coming up in maybe February, with any luck, to do their plan. And both of those, I think, are very well thought through. I would suggest perhaps to Deputy Mayor Salisbury and others that they might like to get the staff to press a copy and then Control V and do the same, because I think you could literally pick up a lot of the work that I'm probably more familiar with Whakatane's plan, but it is completely relevant probably to all the Bay of Plenty councils, and it could potentially be something that could involve a huge impact at the transport level, bearing in mind transport accounts for 2/3 of all CO2 emissions in this region.
Dan. I'll be very brief. Reports just progressing plans for its southern move extension at Sulphur Point, and is using the fast track process for that. And I guess we continue to be frustrated with traffic movements on Tortora Street, and to that point, have welcomed the prioritisation of Tortora Street Hewlett's Road under the TSP. Finally, coal. I think you've got an incredibly long list. You've been very much the focus of this meeting, and I know you've got a lot of answers you need to come back to us on. So it's going to be a particularly long Zoom. So anything else you'd like to say as a...
Through you, Chair. No, nothing more to add today, but yeah, thank you for the opportunity this morning, and my apologies, I didn't think all the answers today, but certainly yeah, providing a strong commitment to get all these answers back to you, and yeah, as I said, the offer of an hour session just to do a bit of deep dive and share our thorough update with the projects.
Declare the meeting closed.